Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All righty, welcome into a Monday edition of the JP Peterson Show. And as you can tell, I have the nasal congestion everybody else has across Tampa Bay. After a long weekend of Gasparilla, Lightning hockey, NFL football, and yes, the Royal Rumble, which my man Nick Geddes from On3 Sports was covering stem to stern this weekend at Tropicana Field, the biggest crowd in Tropicana Field history. Yes, for a scripted fight with grown men in underwear. What's up, brother? How are you?
Oh my goodness! I didn't like that.
I
I didn't like that shot.
I didn't
like that shot. Yeah, the Trop. I will go on a limb and say the Trop will never see that many people ever in it again. It was a
show.
It was a sight to behold. I will give you that, JP.
I saw the pictures and video were just unbelievable.
It was crazy. I mean, getting out of there was an absolute nightmare at like 1 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, you know how you go to a Rays game, you usually have no resistance walking to your seat, because there's so much room to move.
Yeah.
This was not that. This
I
was
can
like
only imagine what
like
that
this.
place was like with almost 50,000 people, right?
Yes.
Oh my God. Where did people park? Like, where did the lines to get food and beer must have been incredible. That place can't handle 20,000.
Right. I mean, the lines were long at some places, but most people were buying merch, which I think is the stupidest thing at these events.
So yeah, right.
So, I mean, I got there really early.
Have to carry it around.
Yeah, I got there really early, so I got my stuff before the crowd really rolled in. But, yeah, but you mentioned that you have the sinus thing going on. I've had this all week. Note to self, do not go to the Royal Rumble when you have a horrible sinus thing going on. And I had just this headache and the acoustics. I'm sitting up top, and I mean, every time the ring announcer's doing her thing, it's going straight to my head. So it was a little bit of a conflicting night, but still fun nonetheless.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to get into some of the details of that, but we got lots of other stuff to get to, like who the hell's going to be the offensive coordinator for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There are more interviews lined up, so we'll get to that in just a little bit, and a bunch of folks that they wanted to interview that are already taken and gone. And to Nick's point, we're going to be going through this maybe every year as long as Todd Bowles is the head coach. Will there be a bold move by the Buccaneers to maybe get an offensive coordinator as the head coach? I don't think that's coming, but it's certainly been out there in the Buck ecosphere, so to speak. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The Lightning get a big win over the Devils, 6-3, and they got some guys returning to the lineup, and I'm wondering, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing the way they've been playing? They've won 8 of their last 9 games. Kucherov is on a heater like I think I've never seen before. So we'll talk some Bolts as well today. And, of course, we're going to get to the NFC and the AFC championship games, and we're going to look at these games as we always do, other games, just kind of through a lens of where the Buccaneers are deficient. Why are teams winning these games, getting to the Super Bowl in the modern day era? And we'll try to dig a little bit deeper than Pat Mahomes, because I know that's most of it when it comes to the Chiefs, but maybe we'll dig a little bit deeper in that realm as well. And we're also going to get to the untimely death of one of the greatest writers really in Tampa Bay sports history, Martin Fennelly, who passed this weekend from a heart attack at age 65, way too young to go. And Roy Cummings is going to join us, who worked with Martin for a long time, as did I, when we were at News Channel 8, and they were at the Trib. We were conjoined in our sports department, so we worked together for many years. Just an incredibly talented writer. So we'll talk to Roy Cummings at 10:45 about Martin Fennelly, and also, we try to not only tell you what happened, but in terms of dig a little bit deeper on the story. And Roy and I are going to talk about why a talented sports writer like Martin Fennelly was not working in Tampa Bay. It's ridiculous on so many levels. But we'll talk about that as well. All right, so let's get straight into it, and let's start with the Bucs OC position. Thad Lewis is still I'm guessing very much under consideration in-house as the in-house guy. He's going to interview with the Bills and the Raiders for their open offensive coordinator positions. Alex Van Pelt will also be interviewed today. He's got a really interesting connection with Baker Mayfield. He was calling plays for Baker in that 2020 season where the Browns finally went to the playoffs. Baker had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, threw for almost 4,000 yards that year. They scored 48 points to beat the Steelers in the playoffs. So they have had some success together, obviously known together. He has experience calling plays as well. So he will interview today. They're also looking at interviewing Gerard Johnson, the Texans quarterback coach, who just obviously helped develop C.J. Stroud this year. Antoine Randall L., the Lions wide receiver coach, and of course, longtime Steeler. Brian Johnson, they're going to, I guess, interview him, the Eagles offensive coordinator that was just fired. I hope they don't hire him. And as I mentioned, Thad Lewis. So, this is going to be, hopefully they can find somebody and bring some continuity. I'm very much in the Thad Lewis camp. I think continuity is king in this particular situation. I don't know if Alex Van Pelt is going to come in and install his own offense if he were to be hired. I think anybody that would be hired would be bringing their own offense to install. That's why you hire an offensive coordinator. You don't bring one in to run the same system that you've been running. So that, I think, is a step back and a large step back although this one would I would assume would be a system that Baker knows from Alex Van Pelt. So I think that would be but again, everybody else has to learn it. So again, no continuity. If it's Thad Lewis, I would guess that he would be running the same system that Dave Canales was running, and they would just continue with that continuity, which I think is absolutely essential in getting better. That's the reason you keep a Mike Evans and a Baker Mayfield. It's a reason that you keep guys together and keep an offense together for continuity. So you don't spend the offseason learning an offense. You spend an offseason perfecting an offense and the little details that we saw this weekend that make the difference in winning games and winning Super Bowls. So I am fully in the Thad Lewis camp. I'm open to an Alex Van Pelt. The rest of the guys, we're not talking to them. We're not in the meetings. So I don't, I'm not going to sit here and act like, I know who the best person to hire is. This is going to be a Todd Bowles, Jason Light decision, and they're going to know a hell of a lot more than we do. So you got to kind of trust those people. But right now, I think continuity is king. And you're seeing a lot of these good coordinators like Ken Dorsey, somebody that the Bucs wanted to interview, getting these other gigs. So this is a thing that needs to be done pretty quick. And I don't want Thad Lewis getting out the door either. Well, if I were the Bucs, I'd nail that down.
I know a lot of people are comparing this search to what happened last year, where the Bucs are striking out. I really don't view it that way. No, I know that everybody's making a big deal because they requested to interview Zach Robinson, they requested to interview Ken Dorsey and Kellen Moore, and they all signed before they could even get those guys in the building. But if you examine those three guys in particular, Zach Robinson was always a long shot, not just for the Bucs, but for the rest of the league. Once Raheem Morris went to Atlanta, we kind of knew that was going to happen. So I don't think you were ever really in consideration there. Ken Dorsey, you wanted Ken Dorsey, the guy who was with Buffalo and got fired mid-season.
That was not good.
You wanted Ken Dorsey, really?
I'm
not bothered by not bothered by Ken Dorsey getting out the door. No. And then Kellen Moore
mid-season. That's bad.
Right.
You're really bad.
Yeah, and you're working with the talent that they have in Buffalo, by the way. So I'm not bothered by that. And then the other one was Kellen Moore, who I think a lot of people were probably split on of him in the Bucs fan base. Some people liked him, some people didn't. Conflicting stories of what happened over there in Dallas. My point is, it's like I don't think you were ever really in consideration for those three names. So now you move on to the second kind of string of these guys coming in, and these guys all kind of, you talk about continuity, even the guys who aren't in the building that you're looking after, they kind of would bring a sense of continuity with Baker because at least they've worked with him before, okay? Alex Van Pelt worked with Baker for, I believe, 2 seasons. Now, Van Pelt didn't call plays in Cleveland. I think it was Stefanski, but I was reading this morning, Van Pelt called the plays in the wild card win that the Browns had in 2020 because Stefanski missed the game because of COVID, I believe. And so that was the game he called plays,
okay.
and they
All
won that game.
Yeah.
And then he was the quarterback's coach, and I don't know why he got fired because, I mean, if you notice, the Browns had to play with 4 quarterbacks this year, and Joe Flacco played really well, and they ended up winning 11 games and going to the playoffs. So I'm not even sure why he's available to begin with. So I don't mind Alex Van Pelt. And then the guy you didn't mention who's very intriguing is this Jake Peets,
Yes.
who I believe was like a passing game coordinator or something for the Rams. So he's obviously tied to McVay. He's also been on Nick Saban's staff at Alabama before, was the LSU offensive coordinator in 2021. Another intriguing name, and obviously worked with Baker for a cup of coffee last year in the Rams. So, it doesn't have to be Thad Lewis. My point is they may do that, obviously, but some of these other options at least have experience working with Baker, and that could provide some continuity from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's key. It's never a great situation here. We always obviously would have liked Canales back, but in lieu of that, and it changes, all over the league. It's not just, here, but look at the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they have an offensive-minded head coach and play caller. You have the best quarterback in the league, and this is why they're constantly in the Super Bowl and with 6 straight championship games now, 4 Super Bowls. I mean, it's continuity is king. And of course, these people are talented too. It's not just the same people. They're super uber talented. And we can get into a little bit of that with what Patrick Mahomes did yesterday. But I really feel like, and again, I don't know Thad Lewis like some of the other coaches that have come through here, but everybody to a person just seems to love the way this guy operates. And, you go back and look at the quotes about Dave Canales. They're almost word for word the same about Thad Lewis over the weekend when you look at the departures. So I think that matters. And I just would like to see the continuity. And again, if Thad Lewis is interviewing with the Raiders and Bills, and the Bucs are interviewing other candidates, I don't know if that's the way. I guess you want to cast a wide net. You don't want to be, singularly focused on one guy. But if Thad Lewis gets out the door and becomes a great coordinator, like many believe he will be, that's a miss for the Bucs. I would, is there a school of thought where you lock this down? Dave Canales is leaving. Hey, Thad, get your butt in here. We want to talk to you now. Before you go anywhere else.
This may be reaching a little bit, but I think it's worth putting out. If Todd Bowles really felt like he had something special in Thad Lewis, and it was that simple, I mean, wouldn't they have already nailed this down already?
Yeah.
I mean, you like to think, right?
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, the Bills, Joe Brady was interviewing for jobs and stuff like that, and eventually the Bills ended up just hiring him anyway, like a couple days ago or whatever. So I get it. That's kind of how the process works. But Thad Lewis is interviewing for other offensive coordinator gigs. It's not like Joe Brady, who was actually interviewing for head coaching gigs. It's a little different there. Yeah. So if you're just making lateral moves and it's the Raiders, well, who has a better situation, the Raiders or the Bucs?
I mean, come on.
At the moment, it's the Bucs because we think we have the quarterback, assuming Baker comes back. The Raiders
you already have a relationship with Baker.
So that's my point.
Why would you want to go to a new place and just start all over?
That's my point. It feels like Thad Lewis is kind of like being just like he's in the back pocket right now for the Bucs. Like in the event that they just continue to whiff, it feels like, oh, well, we'll just bring that out.
But if you
that's what it feels like right now.
What are you monkeying around for?
That's my point.
I think part of it is, you always want to see what's out there and kind of get a feel when you bring, it's kind of like I thought with this Canales interview in Carolina and them also interviewing Greenberg, this was also a little bit of a fact-finding mission. Like, how are you guys doing it in Tampa Bay? Let me find out a little bit about, we're not really going to hire you, but, we'll take this opportunity to pick your brain a little bit on how you're attacking people, including us, and will be attacking us down at the. I thought there was a little bit of that subterfuge going on. But obviously they really like Dave Canales. They hired him.
If you're going to interview Dave Canales, you run the risk of him killing that interview, and then you fall in love with him.
The romance, the Kevin Kiermaier, stare into those eyes at your own peril, because this handsome, smooth-talking devil is going to come in there and charm your socks off. And that's exactly what he did. It's exactly what he did. Or nobody else wanted the job. But definitely one of the two, as my friend Chris Thomas used to say. So But again, if Thad Lewis is everything we've heard that he is, and what are we doing? What are
Right.
we doing? I if it maybe we're doing a little, but what am I going to get from Alex Van Pelt? What am I going to get from some of these other guys? Just I don't know. I don't know if this is the way to go about it, but maybe the Bucks feel like they've talked to Thad and say, hey, we're just going to talk to some other people and get some ideas, but you're our number one candidate. We don't want you going in before you sign with anybody else. You got to at least give us the right of first refusal. And maybe Thad's just playing it like, hey, I'm going to go take my interviews. I'm going to use this time to sharpen my interview skills, see what it's like to go do my thing. And that's certainly within his rights to do so. And maybe that's what's going. Maybe it's not the Bucks' decision. Maybe the Bucks are like, hey, man, we want you. But he's like, yeah, I like the job, but I'm going to go interview just, to further my career. And that's fine.
Right. Is it a little surprising to you that, the Bucks had a good year, right? But the offense, we talked about like the gains they made, but we said this kind of last week. This wasn't like a top 10 offense in football.
Right.
This wasn't one of the best offenses in football. Is it almost surprising to you that they've gotten poached at OC?
Yeah.
Their quarterback coach is getting interviews.
Yeah.
It seems like Idzik is the favorite to follow Canales. Like the Bucks are like so close
we
to
score
like
40 points a game, but did I miss something?
this is like wild. It's like it's one thing for the Rams to get poached every single year like they are, especially this year. But how is it that this team that was 21st or 23rd, whatever, in total offense and averaged 21.5 points per game, I believe it is. How is that team the one that's getting poached in the offseason? It's really wild to me.
Yeah, no, I think that probably has something to do with the quote success of the team, right? You're one of the last 8 teams playing, or by schedule, last 6 teams playing. Maybe people go, oh, what's going on? And how the hell did they do that?
Did the NFL have such a sour opinion on Baker Mayfield that the way he played, it's like everybody just near him apparently is going to get credit for this? And
I think that's part of it, which I never really understood. I mean, if you really did a little bit of homework on Baker Mayfield, you saw that there was talent there.
Right.
And that the situations that he was put in were pretty bleak. 9 different head coaches, 8 different OCs, a disaster of a franchise in Carolina that is somehow counted against you. I mean, I don't get that. You got a disaster. He went to Carolina and that didn't work out. Well, whose fault was that? I mean, are you paying attention? What's going on here? That's why when everybody was like, "Oh, he's been with 4 teams," and why, and I'm like, "Well, are you really even counting the Carolina stop? Like, what was that?" I mean, if that the only thing that showed me was that was a bad decision by Baker Mayfield, but he didn't have a lot of options, right?
Correct.
Didn't have a lot of options. So, he thought maybe there was a competent leadership there. So, yeah, again, I thought, as I said on Friday, Baker Mayfield was fertile ground. That was fertile ground to work with Dave Canales. I think people and the expectations being so low certainly helped that, to your point, help Canales, look like some type of miracle worker when combined with what happened with Geno Smith. You have to connect the dots there. There's no question. We're not saying that Dave Canales got lucky. Yeah. There's a lot of great work that he put in, no question about it. But to go from, quarterback's coach to head coach in at about a year's calendar time, and because you have the 21st ranked offense, that's a little bit much. But hey,
yeah. But congrats. Listen, I saw you put this out here, I think yesterday on Twitter, because before he became the big story of that game, Dan Campbell was getting more of his flowers yesterday.
Yeah.
And I know you had said something, and I think it's timely to the discussion we're having right now about head coaches in the league, where you threw out those numbers and everything, and they don't sound like head coach material on the surface.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a little deeper than that.
Right.
And I think you said it. I'm trying to refer to your tweet yesterday, but I know you probably remember exactly what you said.
Basically, what we've been talking about during these coaching changes, and everybody's looking for the X's and O's guy, the best offensive coordinator, mostly offensive coordinator, right? So everybody's looking for the guy that has the secret sauce to be their next head coach. Right. And an X's and O's guy, the best defensive mind, the best offensive mind. My defense sucks. Let me go find a defensive coordinator who's got the best X's and O's. Oftentimes, the best X's and O's guys are not great leaders of men. They're great X's and O's guys. They're great. They're grinders. They're film rats who really have poor communication skills and are not very inspiring people. to be quite honest, which is what I think is much more important as a head coach. So you could take all his offense, defense, ranked into this, into that, into this, into that. Give me a leader of men like Dan Campbell is. That's a leader of men. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. Okay. I think Rich Bisaccia has gotten a raw deal his entire career because he's a special teams guy. Yep. All he did was take a train wreck of a Raiders team that just had their number one pick murder somebody at all, everything else going on within John Gruden. I mean, the whole damn crazy stuff going on, and righted the ship and took them to the playoffs. See ya, you're gone. And with an entire team rallying around him. And just everyone who's ever been coached by him would tell you what a great leader of men he is. Oh, he's just a special teams guy. Stupid. Look at the success John Harbaugh has had. And so I think all these owners chasing these great young offensive minds are just blind to the fact that a lot of them are like Josh McDaniels. My God, this dude could not relate to a human being if he was in a room full of up with people.
Right.
People, old reference, but some of you old heads will know what that is.
Right. And the ones who are like the uber successful ones, the ones that we use as the poster child for, like McVay. Like McVay is a great leader of his team, obviously.
Yes, great leader
and you can see that he has control, leader of men, right?
Yes.
Great control of his team and everything. Shanahan, it seems like it's kind of the same way, maybe to a lesser extent, but you know what? He wins a lot of football games, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. McDaniel, in the most different way of anybody, I don't question if Mike McDaniel has control of his team. He just does it in a very different way, which there's no problem with. Whereas you contrast that to some of the worst examples, like Adam Gase is forever going to be, like, I'm sure Adam Gase is very smart at knowing the X's and O's of football.
He's that guy. He's that guy.
And everything. But some guys just aren't cut out for it. They're coordinators. And like Matt Nagy, for example. Matt Nagy was terrible in Chicago. Did you know that he's the Chiefs' offensive coordinator? You don't hear about that. But he's the Chiefs' offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy is.
Yeah, that's So was Eric Bieniemy for a long time. That's one of those jobs, right? You're a clipboard.
It's one of those
holder.
jobs where you're a clipboard holder. But you heard nothing
Whatever.
about Matt Nagy all year, but he's a coordinator, and I guess he's pretty good at that.
No, he's not doing anything. Andy Reid's doing everything. Come on now. Maybe he's breaking down some tape and pointing out some things, but he's not the play caller. Let's not go crazy about Matt Nagy getting any credit for anything. I got Pat Mahomes as my quarterback, and I got Andy Reid as my head coach.
You could hide him.
All in the place. I could do that job. Here you go, coach. Here's the game plan. Here, Pat, let me wipe that moisture from your helmet there. That's your job.
I don't know. They got an offensive coordinator doesn't call play, has roles. They do. Like Brian Callahan in Cincinnati didn't call plays, and he just got the head coaching job in Tennessee. And he had a role.
Listen, I hope these are, guys that are leader of men, because Matt Nagy was not.
Right. That's my point, though. He's much better suited for the role that he's in.
Exactly. So, yeah, and this might be a good time to dig into the Dan Campbell experience. And I said that, I ripped him for not taking that last field goal. But I am fully invested in Dan Campbell and going for it on fourth down. Nobody did it more than him, and nobody was more successful than him. It's part of his DNA. I get that, and I'm fully on board with that. But just like there are times when he goes for it when probably he shouldn't, or vice versa. Everything analytics, there's time and place. There's momentum, there's points of a game, there's time and score, there's pressure, there's everything. And in that moment yesterday, with this where your team is reeling, you've blown a 17-point lead. You're moving the ball, you're in position. You're now behind in the game with 11 minutes left in a game. I think it was 11 or was it 7 at that point? It's 7 to 11 minutes. I think it may have been closer to 7-8 minutes in the game. And you've got
8 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, 47-yard field goal, 44 to 47-yard field goal. And if so you have an opportunity to tie the score, and then kick off and get the ball to 25, not giving them the ball in better field position. And giving them all the momentum. In other words, if you don't, and that kick in those conditions, that's about a 75-80% chance to make that kick. All right. So in that situation, you have, I think you don't say I'm the riverboat gambler and I always go for it. That's the time when you have clear thought and say, I'm going to tie this game. I'm going to get it to 27-27, get them at the 25, maybe even less, and start. And now now think about that. Okay, now we came back. We stopped the bleeding. We're tied now. 7 minutes to go. Defense, let's go make a play, get the ball back, and win this game. As opposed to, we missed it. Now we're still behind. The crowd's going crazy. They still have momentum. Blah, 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 blah. And I just think that was a bad call. That was a bad call. Am I firing him as it's a worst call ever? No. I just think in that moment that was a bad call. Fair criticism.
Yeah, the first one that he went for when they were up 24-10, I have no problem with that one.
None.
Like
none
you have
whatsoever.
at that point in the
Absolutely
game, you still have all the momentum. You're moving the ball. You're doing all your things. It's 4th and 3, and listen, Goff hit Reynolds right in the hands. I mean, you got to catch that football, and that's why this is not so black and white to me. There were many things that went wrong for the Lions, and some of it Dan Campbell had no control over. But you have to control what you can control, and that's when the in-game coaching decisions come to play. And the next one, when it was 27-24, and this is following, by the way, the drop by Reynolds on that 4th down.
That's right.
That's crazy play, Purdy to Ayuk, where it hits off, I can't remember the safety's name, it hits off his helmet, and then the 49ers score, and then Gibbs fumbles on the ensuing possession inside their own 30. They score again. Yeah. And then the Lions, I think, they don't score, obviously. 49ers get the ball back. I think they kick a field goal. So now it's 27-24. All that's happened in a very condensed amount of time, by the way.
The crowd's going crazy.
Like, it was that quick.
Is on their side, yes.
Right. At that point, you need something just to settle everything down. Get your team back on track, get some goodwill, and that's when we come to the next 4th and 3, when it's 27-24, 7.5 minutes left in that game, okay? This is make or break time. I understand that is what you do. And from the numbers that I looked at, I think on 4th and 3 and I think in that exact situation all year long, they were like 6 of 8 or something like that.
80%.
Okay?
Yeah.
But given the context of the game, and this is why it shouldn't be just what my philosophy is. It has to be
or just
the situation of the game. I have to adjust to the fact that I'm on the road. The crowd is going crazy. This is the NFC Championship game. Man, I know you don't have the greatest field goal kicker in the world. I'm fully aware of that, and I understand that you also have a defense that was completely reeling and had no answer for San Francisco in that moment. But I still would kick the field goal in that moment. Hopefully you make it, obviously, because it's no guarantee, okay? It's not black and white like that. But you'd like to think that you make that field goal and you make it 27-27 with 7 minutes to go, and now it's game on. We settled the crowd down a little bit. We got ourselves back into this game. Now let's see what happens. To me, that's the way I would have done it. But the whole discourse today is that, Dan Campbell, that's who he is, and you're asking him to change his personality in the biggest moment and what got them there. Okay, you have to adjust, though. Isn't that one of the things we criticize people for when they're stuck in their ways a little bit? Sometimes you have to do something different, and I think it called for something different in that moment, and it's a shame that that's the way it happened. Does that excuse the play from the Lions yesterday? No, because the Lions players, and a lot of them key ones, let them down. It's two things can be true here. Dan Campbell, I thought, made a bad decision right there at that moment, and the Lions' key players just completely folded in primetime.
Yeah, they had some opportunities to win that game, a lot of them. I think it was similar to the Bucs game for the Buccaneers, except the Buccaneers were behind. The Lions were ahead, and they had a chance to really, give some knockout punches a couple of times, and they made critical mistakes that allowed San Francisco back in the game.
Right.
All the more reason, in my opinion, to put the pressure back on San Francisco and tie that game.
Right. And here's the thing that's interesting. Remember before half when it was 21-7, and in that situation it was 4th and 3, and they were at the 3-yard line. Okay? Yeah. Did everybody think they were going for it there, right?
When he took the field goal.
When he took the field goal.
Yeah.
It was 4th and 3 at the 3. It seems so tailor-made that he's going to go for it there. But then he completely changes his tune later on when
that would have been stupid to go for it there. Really dumb, because 4th and 3 is not even a close to 50-50 proposition. That's a tough place to score.
Right.
Because you can't really run the football, condensed area. That would be stupid.
And in reality, if you whatever side you sit on with the fourth down calls, we can all agree that the worst decision made was at the end of the game when they get down to the goal line there, and with a minute left, they're running the football on third down. And they're forced to take a timeout, and now you have to play for the onside kick. That right there was really the most inexcusable one, because we have one side of the equation on the other things, or two sides of the equation. Everybody can agree that was terrible.
Yeah, that was awful. So there was a lot of inconsistency in Dan Campbell's coaching. But again, he's the reason they're there. So I'm not going to crush that dude. The Lions made it further than many of us thought. It's a great season. But the one thing that I think the Bucs can take from the Lions, okay, is what? Continuity. Jared Goff was supposed to be a placeholder just like Baker Mayfield, right? Keep building. Don't sell off assets to go get a quarterback at this particular time. Don't take your eye off the ball. Build with Baker Mayfield. Build a team around him. Go find yourself a Jamar Gibbs, an explosive back that gives you an added dimension. Go find an edge rusher like Aiden Hutchinson and start building those key components that you have to have for a Super Bowl. It may not be Baker Mayfield that wins that Super Bowl. It may not be Todd Bowles who's the head coach, but you got to keep adding quality players. And that's what the Lions have done. That's what they did. Now, unfortunately, the Bucs don't have an opportunity unless, someone wants to give us 3 1s for Baker Mayfield. You're not going to have the opportunity to get the amount of picks that Brad Holmes, Pride at Chamberlain High School, their GM, got for Matthew Stafford. But you can still keep building and hit on some players. So to me, that's what I learned from the Buccaneers, that Josh, you got a quarterback in I'm brain farting here. Jared Goff, yeah. Jared Goff, who I think, and people, 2 years ago would have said, Jared Goff ain't getting you into the Super Bowl. He was 7 minutes away. He was 7 minutes away and a couple of drop footballs from being.
He's already been to a Super Bowl.
Exactly. It's so, in Detroit, everybody's like, oh, he's not going to get you there in Detroit, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's been to a Super Bowl, didn't play that great, but this is a guy that can get it done, even though he's not the most mobile guy in the world. He can get it done.
And you didn't even say
Mayfield can too.
And you didn't even say it, by the way, offensive line.
Yeah.
Offensive line. Outside of quarterback, is there anything more important than having a great offensive line?
No.
All the teams that you see have great offensive lines and stability for the most part.
They really do. And it's such a key thing in this game. And the Bucs are not far away. You've got both of the answers at tackle. Cody Mauch appears to be a pretty damn good right guard. Once he gets a little bit more beef on him, I think he's going to be a really good one. You just got to find an answer at center and left guard. And you've got some opportunities to go do that in free agency and the draft. And then you got you got the best left tackle in football, as far as I'm concerned, in Tristan Wirfs, and he's not going anywhere. So, yeah, you got some opportunities here. No question about it. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back on the other side. We got so much more to get to. I want to get to Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. You talk about a tale of two quarterbacks, one that has been lauded as the MVP, one that everybody just can't stop saying horrible things about. He's not the guy. I think he proved he's the guy in Brock Purdy. What a performance by him. We're brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Get your, you can do a personal appointment, get a free case evaluation. Just go into the office, contact them through the website, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Say, hey, I want to come in, get a case evaluation. I have my car totaled. I don't think I got a fair settlement. I've been in an accident. I need somebody to represent me. I have an insurance claim as a class action lawsuit I want to get involved in. Any of those type things. I have some issues at work, slip and fall, something like that. The Jeeves Law Group will hook you up. JEEVES lawgroup.com. Scott Jeeves is in his office in St. Petersburg or in Tampa. They're local folks. They know the local landscape of the legal folks around here. So that will help you as well. It's the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Back at 3 with more NFL talk. Stay with us. JP here for my friends at your local Synovus Bank, and I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation, and that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to synovus.com to find out where your local branch is.
All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson, so if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com. or call 813-485-6808.
Let's go! Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Get on in there and get your immune system strengthened with all this stuff going around. I got a little bit of a sniffle here, but I feel like I don't feel achy. I don't feel like I'm going to get really, really sick. So hopefully my body is going to fight this off. Bay Area Modern Medical Center, Chris Lugo has me taking high doses of vitamin C, vitamin D. So if you've been sick for a while, and a lot of people are talking about this, I've been sick for 2 weeks. My brother's been sick for 18 days. Can't get rid of it. It's so important these days to have your immune system robust. Sleep is so very important. So all these things, I saw something the other day on the web. It says, if your doctor prescribed you a pill without asking you about your sleep habits, your exercise habits, what you eat, what your daily routine is, and all these other things that make a huge difference in your life, then you got a bad doctor. And that's not what they do at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. They go through all those things and advise you how to work out, how to eat, how to sleep, all these things that are so important to your overall health, and then supplement with some good stuff that'll keep you from getting sick in these times when there's so much stuff running around, right? So go to Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com, and get your appointment now with Chris Lugo. All right, I'm going to get to some of the comments here before we get into my dissertation on Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. Good morning to you, Nathan Elliott. Always good to see you, my friend. Christopher Cole, thank you for checking in. Thomas Casper with a little cocky take. Lightning versus Flyers was the record. Yes, and for the Tropicana Field. This might be a good time for you to opine about the incredible time that you had at Royal Rumble. What was the highlight for you?
It was a little bit of a predictable, like nothing like crazy from there's usually a lot of surprises and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We did not get that. There was no Rock, unfortunately. Did not
No,
happen.
the Rock didn't show up?
The Rock did not show up, no.
Hulk was there, right? Hulkamania was there?
Yeah, they showed Hulk. He was in a suite right below us. So it was just it's always cool when you go, though. Even though it was a little predictable, like everything that happened was what I had thought was going to happen, like winners of the matches and stuff like that. The energy in the building.
Did you get the script ahead of time?
Huh?
Did you get the script ahead of time?
I watched the shows. I can pick up on it. Thank you.
Sorry.
Stop with the script. I'm so tired of you talking about the freaking script. Oh, my goodness, man. But no, it was Cody Rhodes, who's Dusty Rhodes' son, won the Royal Rumble for the second straight year in a row. He got on the mic after the show ended and was emotional, said this is Dusty territory, which absolutely. See, and he dropped the bionic elbow, JP.
All right, there we go.
He dropped the bionic elbow, something you would have loved.
Nostalgia
there, but
Rhodes bionic elbow.
Yeah.
Greatest in the world. Yeah.
So there you go. There's my quick little Royal Rumble recap for you.
Yeah. So good time had by all. And how long did it take you to get home?
I got home at about 2:00 in the morning, and I think I got in my car at 12:20 in the parking lot. And I got out of the parking lot, I want to say, around 1.
Love that place. Tropicana Field, babies. Downtown St. Pete. Let's build another stadium in downtown St. Pete. Woo! What a great idea. Okay. Let's get to some of the other comments. This one from Nathan Elliott. Why didn't the Ravens put a spy on Kelsey and play man coverage on just Kelsey? If they would have stopped him, the Chiefs offense wouldn't have gone anywhere. I think everybody has tried to find a way to stop Travis Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes. The bottom line is, you talk about continuity being king. Those guys know each other. That back hip wasn't even a back shoulder. The back hip throw for the touchdown. I mean, what are you going to do?
It was perfect coverage.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
There's no defense for that. And a couple of those other plays that Kelsey made. I thought this was Kelsey's best game. Obviously, the numbers showed that, but I thought he was tremendous. And most of those plays, I would say most of the 11 catches, I'd say 9 of them, there was good coverage. Is that fair?
Yeah, they were good when they needed to be. But listen, I mean, to the point of stopping them, they kept him out of the end zone for the last 40 minutes of the game.
Right, they did. Yeah, yeah. This was and that play by Mahomes late in the game, 3rd and 9. I mean, 3rd and 9. Who's making that play? Who's making that play? I mean, even the call, and there was a very condensed formation by the Ravens. I think this safety was about 9 yards off, 9 yards off the ball, and then they took away Rice and they took away Kelsey, and MVS, the pride of South Florida, running down the middle of the field. Where have we seen this before?
Couldn't catch anything all year.
Biggest catch and throw of the year. And he has a guy, I wouldn't say, right on him, but he's trailing him by about a yard and a half in good position. So Mahomes has got to throw the ball over his head. And he throws a ball. If you've ever played, street ball or whatever, and you're trying to throw it to a guy that can't catch, and you just try to lay it in there, and you're just like, put all the air under it so he can run around and adjust. And MVS is falling backwards. It's literally going to drop in his lap. You can't physically drop this ball and he didn't. So what a play by Mahomes, and just the way he managed the game. He hasn't thrown an interception in 6 playoff games. Right. The pressure that he's been under, the plays that he makes with his feet to keep drives alive, just the precision throws. He's virtuoso performance.
Perhaps the wildest thing is, since he came into the league in 2018, the Chiefs have I think won 14 playoff games. The only losses they've had were that Super Bowl against the Bucs. The other 2 They took place in overtime.
Yeah.
So nobody has beaten them in just like a regular playoff game, save the Super Bowl, in regulation since Mahomes came to Kansas City.
And Todd Monken, we love you, buddy. And you've done a great job with Lamar Jackson. You called 6 running plays to your running backs
Against the number 28 rushing defense in the league. And you're the number 1 rushing offense in the league, by the way.
Like, I just don't understand what that was. That seemed like complete panic by Todd Monken. Or, it's one of those situations where this is the obvious. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball against his defense, so I'm not going to do the obvious. It's your strength. You have to play to your strength. My God. And this was never a blowout at any point. I know Kansas City scored in their first 2 drives, but then you just panic and you call 6 running plays. 80% of the plays you call are pass plays. And with all due respect to Lamar Jackson, he's played fantastically well this year. And I've said it on this show. The Ravens are going to roll in this game over Kansas City. Lamar's playing at his best. He's running and throwing with incredible precision. He's running when he should run. He's throwing when he should throw. He's got great weapons in Zay Flowers. And how many stupid penalties do you have to Zay Flowers taunting? What are you doing, man? How? And then you stick the ball out on the goal line these are dumb, low football IQ plays. And this is what teams like the Ravens do in crunch time. And teams like Kansas City just sit back and go, okay, a little bit too big of a moment for you, I guess. We'll just sit back here and let you self-destruct. Just go, Van Noy, go ahead and walk up and headbutt Travis Kelce after the play when you got him 2nd and 9. You got him 2nd and 9. Let me go. And Travis Kelce's baiting you the whole way. Just dumb football.
Or you're Clowney late in the game, just completely late in the game. It's like everybody was booing like Mahomes flopped. I'm like, you hit him right in the head, and it was pretty late. You
had an extra step and put the crown of your helmet on his chin, and people were actually saying, "Oh, that's a bad call." I'm like, no, that's poor discipline, and we've seen it all game long from the Ravens. All game long.
Which is weird. Like, has this been like a trend with the Ravens in the playoffs or something? Because you just wouldn't think that from a John Harbaugh coach team in the playoffs with all the experience that they have in those situations.
Yeah. No, just absolutely awful. I really thought this was Lamar's chance to have a come out party. And yes, Todd Monken put too much on him, but he was terrible. He was inaccurate. He was flustered. You could see him, talking to the refs, talking to the other players. He was just not cool and calm, like he should be. Meanwhile, I got Brock Purdy making plays with his legs all game long. That guy is so much of a better runner than anybody gives him credit for. That time, third and 6, late in the game, and he comes out of the pocket, gets a little bit, feels the heat, protects the ball, runs out of the pocket, and then puts a move on Anzalone, who's got him dead to rights. A really good tackling linebacker. And Purdy just runs away from him. And he did that quite a few times. There were a couple scramble plays. The throws, the use check on the sideline where he's going to his left and has to get the ball over the defender. He made so many incredibly athletic plays that he doesn't get credit for, not to mention the other plays that he just makes from the pocket with great anticipation. Anybody who thinks Brock Purdy is not an upper echelon quarterback does not know football. He has played tremendously well. And that game, the last 2 games, has shown he looked a lot like another guy in a San Francisco uniform. I won't name him just yet, but he looked a lot like him.
I mean, haven't I been saying this all year? I mean,
you have.
Listen, I don't. The whole arguments against this guy and the moving of the goalpost, and I saw it yesterday. He threw the awful pick over the middle of the field, and then the Ayuk play, which was like just typical.
Yeah.
Just you knew the haters were going to run with that one. That he got so lucky there. But listen, after he threw that pick, he was nails the rest of the game. Yeah. It was the same thing against Green Bay. When he absolutely had to be great, he was. And if you listen to the way his teammates talk about him, he's the leader of that football team. And Trent Williams said, literally, we're here because of him.
Yeah.
Damn right. It's the most important position on the field, and he's the one guy that we just refuse to give credit to. But in the second year in the league, he's in the Super Bowl, and your favorite quarterback is not.
13 of 17 for 189 and a couple of touchdowns in the second half. That ain't not too bad. Not too shabby. All right, want to bring in a good friend and an old friend. Worked with him a long time at the Tampa Tribune when I was at Channel 8, along with the late Martin Fennelly. Roy Cummings joining us here. Good morning, Roy. How are you, my friend? Probably can't hear me. Can you hear me, Roy? You cannot hear me. Okay. Let me do a little producing here on the
I am good, JP. It is good to be with you again.
Okay, good. All right, good. You can hear me now? You can hear me now? We had a little miscomm early on. You can hear me now. You got me. Okay, good. How are you, my friend?
I can hear you. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Good to see you.
I am well, all things considered.
Yes. I wanted to bring you on today because you worked for so long with Martin Fennelly. And for those of you who don't know, we mentioned this at the top. Martin passed this weekend of a heart attack at 65 years old, way too early. And yesterday, while watching the football games, I'm perusing Twitter, found out about it from Brett McMurphy, another one of our former colleagues at the Tribune, and just really kind of heartbroken and saddened because you knew him a lot better than I did. It's just such an incredible writer. I just respected him so much for the way he wrote. He always made me think. He always made me laugh, kind of made me cry at times. Unexpected twists and turns. It's just a great writer, and knew the games and knew the players, a great depth of knowledge, everything you want in a sports writer. Your thoughts?
You nailed it, JP. That is everything that Martin Fennelly was to us and will be forever.
Yeah.
Those of us who knew him will never forget, how he inspired us as writers, every one of us looked up to him as a writer. Every one of us looked up to him as a person, because he could write one column. Nobody could write one line with more impact than him. And I don't know that he ever got the truly national recognition that he should have, because he wasn't in LA, wasn't in Chicago, wasn't in New York, but he was just so far in a way, so phenomenal a writer. It's just incredible. If you read one of his articles, as you said, you probably laughed, you probably cried. And maybe the thing he did best was he went out and found the stories that nobody else would think of.
Yeah.
Talking to Martin once about his philosophy behind writing, and this is what tells you that he was somebody different. He told me that when John F. Kennedy died, someone went out and interviewed and did an article on the man who dug his grave. And Martin said, that's how I approach most of my articles. I want to go find the person who's different, the person no one thinks of. While everyone else is focusing on JFK and the family and the nation and the tragedy, someone went out and interviewed the man who dug his grave. And that is how Martin kind of thought up articles. But at the same time, he didn't forget, who the great players were.
Right.
If it's the Bucks, he never forgot about He said it time and again. You can't write enough about the superstars, and he didn't. He wrote constantly about the superstars, but in ways that no one else could, and truly no one else could.
Were there certain articles that you remember most, or certain things that he wrote about specifically?
I don't remember. I don't have this backlog of things that I remember, but I'll just give you an example. I just pulled out an old article from the day after.
Is that a newspaper? What is that?
This is a newspaper, yes.
What is that?
An old Tampa Tribune sports section, JP.
A Tampa Tribune? Sir, can you just hold that up and let me marvel at it for a second?
Yeah, please do.
Oh, God.
This is from the day, and here's the article. Let me see this. This is it. This is the day after Bill Parcells told the Tampa Tribune and no one else, this is back when you had scoops, that he was not coming to the Buccaneers. I reached out to Parcells. I got a phone number for him and reached out and actually got him at his house one day. And that was our story the next day, was that Parcells was not coming to the Buccaneers. This is
How about that?
January 29, 2002. And this is Martin Fennelly's lead to his column off of that news. The big tuna is gone, period. The smell lives. Bill Parcells to the Bucks remains the thing that wouldn't die. I mean, this is 2 years in a row. You got to remember that Bill Parcells was rumored to the Bucks, and he wasn't coming. That was Martin. I mean, that was him. And
you know what's interesting? That's a great point. That still resonates on this day. It still smells. We still talk about it. We still talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
What a brilliant line.
Yeah, and there's there's a dozen more in here. He's got Rich McKay in a hold on a second. Let me find this.
Take your time.
We can go down
memory lane like this. I love it.
At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, scanning for Al Davis on sonar. Meanwhile, on Malcolm Glazer's orders, Joel and Brian are in the scheduled schoolroom, standing at the blackboard writing, "I will not fire my coach unless I have another 1,000,000 times."
See, now we could break this down in so many ways. And there's
Martin
so much.
Once wrote, sorry to interrupt you, JP, but since you're talking about old stuff that he wrote, Martin once wrote, he was writing a column again, and this is kind of Martin. This is Martin. This was back when the great Gators teams with Tebow and everything were just flourishing, and they were trying to underplay, how great they were. We're just like everybody else. We're just like everybody else.
Right.
So Martin, he wrote once off of that, he says, "It's true. We went into the Gators locker room and found out that just like everybody else, they put their pants on 2 legs at a time."
There's so much nuance to that part that you wrote about the Glazers and everything about, like, there's few lines. There's so much nuance to that. If you could read it again, starting with the Rich McKay stuff, because I think this is a great point.
Yeah. Rich McKay is in a diving bell at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, scanning for Al Davis on sonar. Meanwhile, on Malcolm's orders, Joel and Brian are in a scheduled schoolroom, standing at the blackboard writing, "I will not fire my coach unless I have another coach 1,000,000 times."
See, there's so much nuance to that. It's like you're underscoring the incredible lengths that Rich McKay has gone to in this freaking coaching search that lasted forever.
Yeah.
And then you're also speaking truth to power in Malcolm Glazer's and the, at that particular point, the young boys it was a bit of a clown show. It was a bit of a clown. They weren't, this was kind of learning on the job. And these are things you don't do if you're a serious franchise.
Yeah.
And these are things that we don't get anymore. Roy, people are so afraid to speak truth to power. They're so afraid that we don't have these columnists that come out on a daily basis and are, they're poking the bear, man.
Yeah.
They're poking, and we need this. This is part of the organic flow of sports in a big sports market. I mean, where are the great columnists, like Martin, in some that we've had in this marketplace that are constantly poking the bear? I'm not disparaging anybody currently. That's not my point here. I'm going back to a time when it was different. And this was expected. But the brilliant ones did it in such a good way. I mean, that's not sitting there saying, Joel and they're not ready to be executives. No, you didn't say that. You said it in such a much better way that made me laugh, that made me think and put it into, they're not ready for this.
Yeah, no, you're right, JP. And it's unfortunate that there is not a venue really, or there are very few venues for people, not that another Martin is going to come around. It'll be a generation or two before we see that. But you're right. I mean, Martin he poked the bear, and the bear sometimes didn't know he was being poked until someone came up to him and said, "Oh, hey, by the way, did you see the slap you got from the Tampa Tribune?" And like, no, I don't understand. And that was the brilliance of Martin, is he could poke you and you didn't even know you were being poked. Sometimes, he'd hide it in a veiled reference that you had to be pretty smart to figure out. He'd mention the scientist of Pinamundi or something. I mean, that's he would put it in a context that was so cerebral.
Yeah. Many times I had to go look up those references. I don't know that one. Let me go look it up. Let me Google that.
Well, you know what? And we're online, so I guess I can say this. And one of the things I was taught back in the day at journalism school was educate the bastards. And Martin and I believed in that philosophy. we would both try to put things in articles. If it made you get up and sometimes go find a book or read an encyclopedia, it's like, well, too bad.
Yeah,
maybe the answers aren't always here. And Martin was great at that. He was great, and he got away with it. He was able to get away with it.
Yeah. Nick, you want to jump in here from a younger man's perspective? Do you remember Martin Fennelly? Do you remember growing up reading his stuff?
Yeah, I was gonna note that Martin's work and obviously your work as well, Roy and Ira Kaufman. Like, I know I'm the younger generation, but I still remember, my grandparents used to subscribe to the Tribune and the Times, and I always remember my grandpa would lay the sports section out on the floor, and I would just sit down there and I'd sit Indian style, and I would read through all y'all's columns and all of your articles over and over and over and stuff like that. And it really inspired me to be a journalist. It's all I ever wanted to do. And I read y'all's work. So, yes, I do remember a lot of Martin's work and yours, Roy's, as well. So I thank you so much, honestly, for being a big inspiration for me.
Well, I appreciate that immensely. And, it's unfortunate. I'm glad you had that opportunity.
Yeah.
And what's unfortunate is that I don't know that, this young, and I hate to say it this way, but this current generation of kids, who are teenagers who are sports fans, don't have that opportunity, as you said, because, you got to go search it out a little bit more. Yeah. It's easy to find. There's more information out there, but how much of it is valid? That's the biggest problem. Is there are so few people on the front lines, particularly in sports now, than there ever has been, because, there's no news, very few newspapers. How does a community like Tampa not have a newspaper? A daily newspaper.
Unbelievable.
And the St. Pete Times is a weekly now. So, it's unfortunate that people aren't getting as much information, from people who are on the front lines. Look, it's very easy. And we see a lot of this now. And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but it's very easy for people to just sit back at home and go and read what is produced by the very few that are on the front lines now, and put their own little spin on it. After the Tribune was put out of its misery by the St. Pete Times, 6-7 years ago, I went to work for a national website that was kind of what they did. Yeah. And I was very uncomfortable doing it. And, it's one of the reasons I started Florida Football Insiders, because we wanted people, on the front lines, and it wasn't able to survive, because as you guys know very well, it's hard to find investors. It's hard to find, sponsors and things like that. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that sports, more than anything, has very few people on the front lines who can give you the information that you need to gauge an opinion and really know what's going on with the teams that you follow.
It's a great point, Roy. And, we were going to transition into this, and I don't want to, cheat the time of Martin. I think we've given him a great due for what he's done. And I think this next part of the conversation is part of that. His legacy should be part of this. And I said it in my tweet last night about Martin. I said, as an aside, the fact that he was not able to write about Tampa Bay sports for the last, 4 or 5 years, or maybe longer, on a daily basis, is criminal, is absolutely criminal. You have a guy that had the depth of knowledge to understand and all the nuance of it. And, and we don't have it, there's only one newspaper, the television stations, everybody, it becomes a business, and it's all for profit, and it's all the fact that that the gatekeepers, and listen, I think there's room for it. It's just, profit. You got to get your quarterly dividends or whatever the hell's going on, at papers and stations and what have you, websites or what have you. The fact that we don't have more outlets for a man of his genius, and frankly, your experience in genius as well. And I could go down the line, we have some nice websites that are Buck specific and things like that. I myself, as you know, have tried to do something that's more all encompassing in sports. And I've tried to find investors for the last 5 years, and there's just nobody that wants to step up and do this. And and for sports fans and you guys that are listening right now, it's a goddamn shame. It's a goddamn shame that Martin Fennelly hadn't been writing columns and Roy Cummins hadn't been covering the Bucks for 7 years or whatever the hell it is. It's and I know what people say, it's sports, what. It's very important to a lot of different people. And I think it matters. And I think there's somebody out there that's going to be able to do this I'm still trying. I got a meeting this week with an investor. So hopefully someday we'll be able to put this together. But I'm just sad about it. And his passing and what happened to him and you and Ira and everybody that worked at the Tribune is sad. It's really freaking sad.
It is sad. And what's very sad is that, young people like Nick and people who are younger than him are never going to read a Martin Fennelly column. They won't get his take on the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce love affair and what that means to the NFL and everything else. Take your, or what you were talking about, the Ravens running the ball 8 times. We'll never get a take on that. And that's unfortunate because that's what's, because you're right. There are so many people who live and die with sports. I mean, my son is that way. And I mean, I lived it, but he's more into sports than I am. And, and that's how some people, I mean, that's what drives their lives is they, it's one team or it's several teams or it's just being a part of it and things like that. And it's unfortunate that they don't have, as you say, a place to go to find the best information possible on a daily basis, and it's one day, we'll look back, maybe we'll be long gone, but one day someone's going to look back at this and say, they used to deliver all this information right to you. It was on your doorstep. You open up your door, you pick it up, and it was right there in front of you. And someone is going to think, now say, wow, how convenient was that? I mean, it's hell. Newspapers, for whatever you think, they were a hell of a lot more convenient than the internet.
Oh my God. Because now we got
trying to read one article and every, ads pop up. And I don't want to sound like the old. I get it.
It was so much like it was so much easier, too. And obviously, I came in at the tail end of newspapers really being a thing. But now, when you're doing it on your phone, I mean, you're getting text messages coming right in front of your face. Yeah. You've got ads all over the place that are messing up you, and eventually you just give up and move on. I mean, you really can't just devote all your energy to reading it. I'm someone who works in online media and everything. I know how it works and everything. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where right sitting next to me right now, I have a vinyl player. Those things were so gone and dead and everything. Now everybody wants one because nostalgia is a big thing. And I'm holding out hope that one day a newspaper will make its return and everybody will go, man, this actually is really cool. And I hope one day that happens.
What's most important is that, and again, it's about holding people accountable. I mean, that was always the newspaper, and that is the media's role. Yeah. And that's what most people don't understand about the media. They hate the media because of this and that, but they hate the media because of their job. Their job is to hold people accountable. It's the media's job, no matter what it is. Well, maybe entertainment is not as important, but with sports, just as in politics, our job is to hold people accountable and to let if you're spending, whatever it is for a ticket, $50, $100, $35, whatever it might be, $500. This is what you're getting. And if you're invested as a fan, our job, people always ask me, what was the job? Because I was a beat writer. Martin was a columnist.
Right.
Martin had the opportunity to write his opinion on a regular basis, and that was what he had to do. I didn't get that opportunity. I was a beat writer, which my job, people ask me, what's the job of a beat writer? And I would tell a young journalist, I've told them many, my job is to tell the reader or the fan what's going to happen with this team before it happens.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean tell you that the Bucs are going to be 9-8 this year and win the division and win a playoff game. It means that they're going to get Baker Mayfield and it's going to work, and they're going to hold on to Antoine Winfield and Mike Evans. They'll figure out. My job was to tell you what's going to happen before it happens, so that you're prepared and can make a decision as to whether you want to spend your money on that team this year or not, or today or not, or whether you really want to watch today's game or anything like that. That was my job.
And for those who don't know, it was based on your relationships with the people in the building, with Rich McKay, with Tony Dungy, with the receivers coach, with Mike Tomlin, the defensive backs coach, because you were there all the time. You got to know these people. They trusted you. The players trusted you, and you got that information. That doesn't really go on anymore. I think Rick Stroud is the only beat writer, I think, from the Times that really is there all the time.
Yeah.
I think for the Bucks, there's Pewter Report. They do a great job. Joe Bucks fan does a great job. There's some websites that do a great job, but for the most part, there's probably 4 beat writers now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greg Allman, but he's doing the whole NFC South now.
Yeah. And this, JP, because you were there. I mean, and you worked it differently than most people. You knew that, in order to get into my job, writing a story, might take an hour, but getting the story took
a lifetime,
all day, if not several days. And you had 3 minutes to do a sports cast, but you spent all day getting the information for it. And a lot of that time was spent behind the scenes with those people, finding out exactly where things were going. I'll never forget when, after this Bill Parcells thing blew up and the Bucks are, they're looking at, a dozen different candidates. And I remember, there was some reports out about who they were going to hire as the coach. And I wrote an article saying, not going to happen, not going to happen.
Yeah,
I even got questioned from my own, sports editor. How come the Times has this, that they're going to hire this guy? And I said, because they're not going to hire that guy. And they never did. And they ended up getting John Gruden. And it's because of the relationships you develop with people, at the top of the organization, the Rich McKays, the Glazers, the Suns, it's knowing who to go to and getting information. And there's so few people who can get that information and give it to you, solid and pass it on now. And it's just unfortunate.
Well, Roy, appreciate you taking the time. And we'll bring it back full circle to Martin. I'll give you the last word here. And it's interesting. You said he never became national. It was my feeling because we were working with the Tribune people at the time. Yourself, you and I worked closely together.
Yeah.
And Martin was not a self-promoter. Martin, not that you were, but because you were constantly you were told you're going to be on TV 100.
Yeah, I had no choice.
You had no choice. And so it just, he was just different, man. He was just different. Yeah. And I never befriended him like you did. You traveled together with him. And I hear those stories are legendary. If you want to share one, go ahead. But it was just, I'm just, and then you held up that paper, man. I got choked up. I'm like, I miss that. I miss that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. We miss it too. And I'll tell you what, Martin was he was like a brother to me. I mean, we shared a lot of interests and we both love to read. We both love history. We both love movies. I mean, we seldom, if ever, talked about sports. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing how we seldom, if ever, talked about sports. And look, one of the best story I can tell you, one of the best stories I can tell you about Martin was, you remember the Bucks going to Philadelphia, horrible snowstorm, had to go early, for the NFC Championship game. It's 2 degrees and 2 feet of snow on the ground, and my luggage got lost along with Catherine Smith, who was on the beat with us at the time.
Yeah.
Martin's luggage did not. So after 2 days, we went a day early. After 2 days of this, still no luggage, I had to wear one of Martin's sweaters. And of course, it had a big stain right here in the middle of it because Martin was not the cleanest guy in the world. He was one of those guys. I mean, 2 days after having a hamburger, there was cheese in his beard still. And, but that was just Martin. And we loved him for it. But here I am having to borrow a sweater from Martin because I still have no luggage. I'm wearing the same clothes for 2 days in a row. It's like, I got to wear something else. I go to Martin, can I borrow a sweater? He pulls a sweater out of his bag. I put it on and boom, right there in the middle of his navy blue sweater is a big white blotch.
I think that says it all. Rest in peace, Martin.
That was Martin. We loved him. And, JP, you know this too. The group at the Tampa Tribune, that sports staff it is a brotherhood.
Yeah.
That is like no other that I've ever seen, not just in sports or journalism, but almost anywhere where people work together. I mean, there are 15 or 20 guys there who are still as tight as a fist.
Yeah.
And, it's Joey Johnston and Roger Mooney and Brett McMurphy and Mick Elliott, David Alfonso, who's passed, unfortunately. I mean, when David Alfonso passed, 30 people got together to honor him from that Tribune staff. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And that was all because of Tom McEwen, really. But
Tom,
it was a brotherhood, and I wish others could experience that kind of thing. I'm fortunate to be a part of it.
Well, listen, maybe we will someday. Maybe we'll put the band back together and see what happens. But it was a joy to work with you guys, and I gotta have you on other times so we can reminisce about some of this other stuff, because it's fun times.
Anytime.
I think the fans enjoy it. I can tell by the comments and the numbers I see on the screen that they enjoy it. So we'll do it again, and we'll talk some Bucks too. Thanks, Roy.
For you, JP. You know that.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Take care.
Great stuff. I knew you'd come through in a pinch. That was fantastic. All right, we got to take a quick break. We got to pay some bills here, and we thank our great sponsors for allowing us to go over on some of these segments here. Golden Diamond Source, thank you so much. The Geddes Gordon Group, American Mortgage Services, Synovus Bank, Bay Area Modern Medical Center, the Jeeves Law Group, Italiano Insurance. Thanks to all those folks. Quick break. When we come back, Corey Long's going to join us. We're going to talk some football. We're going to talk some Bolts. All kinds of good stuff coming your way. Stay with us.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Start the new year with a new diamond from the Golden Diamond Source. It's still engagement season. Where better to get that special ring than the Golden Diamond Source? Of course, I just got mine there. I'm engaged. You should do the same thing. Let's go. Golden Diamond Source has the largest selection of engagement rings in the country. A literal jewelry superstore with 30 times the inventory of any normal jeweler. And if you have a loved one or a special person in your life who has a birthday this month, maybe you have an anniversary coming up, you can get 15% off the January birthstone, which is garnet, as in garnet and gold for all your Seminoles. Celebrate that mythical national championship. And it's the Golden Diamond Source's 40th anniversary. For the past 40 years, they have taken pride in offering only natural diamonds formed over billions of years from the Earth's incredible forces. And gold prices are at an all-time high. Now's your chance to turn your jewelry box into a cash machine. It's the perfect time to trade in your broken or unworn pieces for something new and stunning. It's the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Omerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the J.P. Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at the Golden Diamond Source. And guess what? Valentine's Day is coming up, kids. And the good folks at the Golden Diamond Source have that gift card match coming up. So go to thegoldendiamondsource.com, get all the information on that. Double your money and get something sweet. And you get those gift cards, right? You pay $500, get $1,000 worth, get $1,000 gift card. That's a good present. That's a good present. Then they get to shop themselves, right? Instead of you going, and that's like, you don't know what to do. Let them go shop for them. And they get $1,000 to work with. And you only paid $500. Pretty good deal. It's the Golden Diamond Source. You know the good folks over there, Julie and Steve Weintraub at 3800 Almerton Road. Always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. All right, our good friend Corey Long joins us now. And I believe, Corey, you were at Royal Rumble as well with my good friend Nick Geddes. I should just turn this show over to you two guys and let you roll. How was it?
Well, first, before I say anything, Martin Finley was a tremendous man and a great friend, and I'm going to miss him terribly.
Well, you know what? We'll table the Royal Rumble conversation. So to let you opine on that and how Martin affected your career, because we had a great conversation with Roy Cummings. Not sure if you heard that, but yeah, go right ahead. I didn't want to leave that out.
You know, I knew. I kind of did some work for the Tribune here and there, so you know, a lot of my interaction with Martin came as I moved up in my career, and I was able to sit at those tables with him, sit at those go to those events with him, go to those big events. But it really, my good friend Anwar Richardson, one of my really great friends, someone I've known for a long time, he put it best when you talk about the person that Martin was, and he made younger writers feel good. In most places, when you're a columnist, when you're the columnist in a city where there's some pro sports, you just really don't have time for, it's a busy job, and it's a high profile job in journalism. And, but Martin was the guy that would call the high school writer, ask him, what game you covering this week? Ask him, what's the story there? Who's a good player? I'm going to come out. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to write a column on it. And to a young writer that's, getting started, that's a tremendous feeling. That's a tremendous feeling of acceptance. And he just made you feel that way. He no matter who you were, he just made you feel like you were important enough to talk to have an opinion with him, to maybe have a debate, obviously to share a lot of laughs, because he was he had this wonderful sense of humor, and his writing talent was unmatched in this area.
That's really well said.
Yeah,
that's really well said.
And
go ahead.
To be honest, I can't envision a world where I'm not going to see him anymore. He's not going to pop up at a Lightning game with you and me and just hang out for a bit. See him in his shorts. Yeah. He's the only guy wearing shorts in the press box.
30 degrees outside.
Yeah, I love him. I miss him. My heart goes out to his kids, Nora and Connor. I love you. Met. I think you probably met Nora Finley before, and she's a Florida State graduate.
Yeah.
And she's a super pretty girl, and I would always look at her and go, "So that's your daughter?" He would just look at me, just give me that look. Oh God! But
I can't. And that's a wonderful tribute, Corey. And I kiss. I said this to Roy, and I put it on Twitter. It's an absolute shame that a man with that kind of talent and knowledge and depth didn't have a spot in the Tampa Bay sports marketplace for the last 5-6 years, whatever it's been. I mean, it's just criminal. It's just, I don't know. I opined on that a lot. And, I don't want to point the fingers at the gatekeepers, but I don't know who else to point them at. I will say this: there have been many requests, and it's not just in Tampa Bay. I mean, it was in Gainesville, it was down in Palm Beach. Nick Puglisi, who used to be a major editor here in this area, a lot of people asked him to write over the last few years, and he was kind of in and out. He just really, I'm not sure if he just, I'm not sure why he wasn't doing, but believe me, there were still people who desperately wanted him to contribute. Because he's got no one, whatever he had to say, no one could say it any better than him. So I don't know. I don't know what the dynamics there were, but and I don't pretend to know Martin like you did and some others, but I know he was a very proud man. And I think he was probably like, look, if you're not going to pay me the wage to be a columnist in a major market and be on that platform, not in an arrogant way, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way, then maybe he just didn't want to do it. I just like, and I get that, and I totally understand that, and I respect that. I respect the hell out of that.
So, absolutely. Whatever. I understand it.
Whatever. But it's just there's too many talented people that I've grown up with in this marketplace that used to have big time, great jobs at a major newspaper, major television station with a large audience, and that doesn't exist anymore. And that's a shame for the kids that are growing up today that don't get the coverage of their high school football teams that they deserve, or their volleyball teams, or their flag football teams, or even their pro teams. I mean, we don't even have a traveling reporter with the Tampa Bay Lightning right now. Nobody goes on. There are times when the Rays don't have somebody on the road for the Times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, dog. That's a major market. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, it really is. And, when you start thinking about those names like Martin, like Roy, like Ira, Kaufman, it's like they're still out there. We still see them. It's just, we don't get to read them every day like we used to. And that's just, and that's a loss. That's a loss that's a loss for this community, because
absolutely,
those are the people. These are great guys with great voices, and they're people that, whether you agree with them or didn't agree with them, they were worth reading every day.
And I think the move towards the franchises controlling the information, everybody has their own websites now, and the websites obviously get great access to the players and the coaches and everything else. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's great. They get a lot of access, but you don't have the critical columnists and they're taking more of a critical eye and maybe a more honest eye. I don't expect the Bucks or Lightning website to rip their own coaches or players. It's not what I'm not saying, but it just in the old days, you had that. You had these people that would hold you accountable. Like, if you did something, if you didn't use your timeouts well, boy, Martin Fennelly in your column the next day was going to take some pot shots, and you knew that was coming. Yeah,
absolutely. You knew that. You had that balance. You had that balance, and I think it was always important. That was the beauty of having two papers in this area, was you had the balance, the different style of writing. You could read them both. You can get different perspectives, and the more you had, the better. Especially when it comes to these sort of a great mid-sized market with some really good pro teams. That's and really large. Now a massively growing population. So it's I'm sorry to get off the conversation, but
no, it's a great conversation to have. And at least we have 2 hours in a longer format on this program to cover local sports. That's what we do every day. We're trying to bring you guys this type of stuff I'm talking about. That's why I bring Corey Long on. He'll give you an objective point. That's why I bring Roy Cummings on. All the guests that we have, we're trying to do what we used to do. Unfortunately, we don't have the platform that the Times has or the news stations have. We're growing, no question about it. We're growing, but I want to rekindle that. I would love to have employed Martin Fennelly on my website. I would love to employ Corey Long on my website and be able to pay him a living wage to cover the Bolts or the Bucks on a daily basis. I would love to pay Roy, all Ira Kaufman, put the whole damn band back together. But you need investors and you need advertisers to do that. So if you're out there and you're interested, JP at the jppetersonshow.com. Let's put it all together. So, all right, let me ask you about the Bucks offensive coordinator position. Your thoughts? Who's going to get this gig? Who should get this gig?
I keep hearing the name Thad Lewis, and that's that seems to be the belief that you want some continuity you feel like that Baker took so many steps forward this year that you know that maybe the guys in house, have the, they've got, they've got that great connection. I'm not sure how, wide of a net they're going to look at. I know they're looking at some different guys. I heard like, Ken Dorsey's name in there, who was the former OC at Buffalo, who I don't think did a bad job, to be honest with you. I think it just was, Buffalo, the whole team was struggling and someone had to be the fall guy there. So I'm open. I'm open to hear the names, to see who they're looking at. But I'd be surprised. Wouldn't you be surprised if they went outside of the organization on this one?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, me too.
Which is why I'm a little shocked that they're going to let Thad Lewis go talk to the Raiders and the Bills. Now I know that might be Thad's choice. He wants to go interview as part of his career path. I think that's a smart thing to do. But I hope,
agree. I think you have to.
Yeah, and I hope Jason Light says, "Hey, listen, young man, we want you here. And obviously we go do those interviews, but please do not make a decision until you talk to me, because we want you to be here." I hope that conversation has been had.
Yeah, I think it has. I think they value their guys in house. I really do. I think this was a really, for that organization. I think this was kind of a year that they were able to. That a lot of guys were able to prove themselves in some ways, and some like Dave got a head coaching job out of it. So and good for him. It's not, as I tell people, that's probably was not the best job on the market. I don't know if a lot of established coaching prospects wanted to work for David Tepper, but I also think you have to, you don't know how many times your name's going to get called in life, and there's 32 of these jobs available. And he now has one of the 32, and more power to him. You gotta go. He didn't really have a choice in the matter. Sometimes you have to go when it's your time, whether you think it's your time or not, because there's a finite number of these positions and a finite number of opportunities to get one.
I agree. Nick, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, on the subject of coaching hires, this one more of an impact of how it has in college with Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers and Sharon Moore getting the job there. I've already seen, obviously it looks like Mentor's going to follow him to L.A. The strength coach, I think it was at Ben Herbert, I think this morning they announced is going with him. I mean, just try to sum up this, the Michigan, how they recover from this, and if you think Sharon Moore can just keep this momentum going even as he loses a lot of these assistants this late in the game.
Well, I think there's certainly going to be a little bit of a reset at Michigan, just because you lost so many great players that have been part of a 3-year journey, and now you're losing some coaches. They've got they had a pretty large staff of coaches. I'm sure Sharon Moore has some guys that he likes, that whether they're already in the program or some guys that he feels like he can get into the program that he's interested in. Obviously, you knew Jim Harbaugh was going to take some guys with him over to LA, and Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. I don't care where he is. He doesn't lose. I mean, given his name, and those of us who watched football in the 80s and 90s certainly remember him as a quarterback. And he got his head coaching job starting in San Diego. Not San Diego State, but San Diego the Toreros. He had
Josh Johnson.
That wasn't And then Stanford wasn't exactly a great job when he took it, and he turned those guys into a winner. And then he goes on and goes to the Super Bowl, and and flames out, and then that 49ers get that weird situation after an 8-8 season. They fire him for I forget the horrible hire they made after him, but he goes to Michigan and he has the and it takes a few years. He has to kind of get past Urban, and so he had to kind of wait out Urban and some others. But he once he got a hold of Ryan Day's ass, he didn't let go. I can tell you that much. So I think I think there's just going to be, I don't expect Michigan to be great this year. Probably an 8-9 win team, just because they're losing a lot of players. They're losing a lot of guys that are going to be that are graduating, guys that were super seniors more or less, and it's just going to be natural to reset when you lose all of those things. I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happened at Alabama. They just, if they maybe take a step back just because they lost a lot in the portal. They're going to lose a lot more. They lose a lot more in the transfer portal than Michigan will. I believe that much. So there's some transition, and transition in college right now probably isn't a bad thing.
No.
So there's going to be some different looks, and I'm curious to see what Sherrone Moore does. I think he had a heck of a break-in period this year. He probably coached a lot more games than he thought he would in a championship season. But he went out there. I think the players and the team, really respond to him. It's clear that I think Harbaugh had a great affinity for him and really wanted him to have this job when he left. And that I think that probably made his departure a lot easier than it could have been otherwise. So, we'll see how it works. I think, Michigan's hoping that continuity is what works for them. Alabama is hoping that, is wondering if a new guy with a new style, can continue to keep things rolling there. And it's all very interesting to me.
Corey Long joining us here at NHL.com, WalterFootball.com. I don't think I've gotten your entire take on the Bucs season and where they're at right now and how they move forward, regardless of this OC hire. I think everybody believes that, Mike Evans and Baker will be back, but we don't know that for sure at this particular point. But where do you see the Bucs at right now and what their immediate future? How do you see this playing out?
I see they've got some very good opportunities. They've got a lot of money and a lot of money to make to re-sign the players they want to re-sign. I mean, you'd obviously put Baker up there. You'd put Evans up there. Winfield, I think he's the key piece on defense. You'd love to see Levante David come back for, God, that was 13th season or somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah.
But Devin White's probably not going to be back. We can all agree on that one.
It's a good thing.
But yeah, and I think they've got some room to make some free agent signings to really bolster some areas. And this team drafts extremely well now. There's no longer a worry about how this team handles the draft. They do a very good job at drafting football players.
Yeah.
So I think this is really coming off of a season where you win 10 games, including playoff. I think they've got a great opportunity to move forward. And the division's going to look a little different next year. Somebody's going to try to step up, you think. I mean, I don't know. Carolina, they've got a few years. They got to figure out some things.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta's better than what they've shown.
I agree.
I don't know, but I think they are. I don't know if Raheem the Dream is going to get it out of them. I'm glad he is getting another opportunity. I think he's put himself in position to get it. He was 31 the first time he got a head coaching job?
I think he was 32 years old. Yeah, and that was
goodness.
Yeah.
It was just too young. At that time, 32 before Sean McVay existed, 32 was too young to be a head coach in the NFL. So, I don't know what's happening in New Orleans. New Orleans feels like it could be kind of a dumpster fire next year.
Especially if they bring Gruden in as the OC. Can you imagine if they bring Gruden in as the OC? Is Jameis going to stay there, and Dennis Allen and Carr and my God, give me the.
Just put Hard Knocks there right now.
Exactly.
They're going to do this. Just put Hard Knocks there. Didn't pay.
Please give me John Gruden, Jameis Winston, and Carr in a meeting room with a camera, please. Oh my God. How good would that be? Hey, some thoughts on the Bolts here as we head to the All-Star break, having won 8 of 9 now. They've won
8 of 9, 7 straight at home.
Yeah,
scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, keeping the 3 or less is a huge. I said this on the post game show with Emblem the other day. All we talked about in the first part of the season, the first 30, 40 games, was every defensive mistake and stupid pass you make ends up in the back of your net, and it's just killing you. Every time you have a lead, you give it up. Now it's just the opposite. We're not seeing the careless passes. We're not seeing just terrible defensive coverage, hanging your goalie out to dry. We're seeing a lot more responsible play, and Kucherov is just on a heater. Like, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. This guy is just freaking. If he's not the best player in the game right now, and there's some great ones out there. I know guys are having great seasons, but watching Kuch each and every night, Corey, is such a treat right now.
Oh my God, yeah, just the things he's doing with the puck, the shooting. He's gotten so much more aggressive, and you think a guy with that sort of with already these sort of numbers really deciding to get aggressive now, and you can see what he's really capable of. It's you go into a break. I don't know if this is the best time to have a break when you're this hot, but it is what it is. You're gonna get guys back, and it's gonna be that decision of who stays, who goes. I think Lilleberg, I feel like he's a guy that's got to stay on your roster right now.
Absolutely.
I think he's earned that. And, you got to decide, if you want, if you're going to if Crozier can't start every night, you got to put him back down to Syracuse so he can play. But you also know that this guy's, if he ain't ready, he's pretty doggone close. Right. And you can bring him back up. So, it gives this team a lot of options at the deadline, don't you think?
Yes.
Because now they know that they've got some pieces defensively. They've got some guys, and, maybe they can put themselves in a better situation salary-wise. And we'll see, But it's Eric Erlinson said that I think he said it was like the 5th hardest schedule in the first half of the season, and maybe it's like the 27th hardest in the second half of the season. So
I did not know that. I
didn't know that either. So I think, there's going to be some opportunities to get on rolls like they are on right now. And maybe we just really didn't appreciate how difficult the first half of the year was with so many games played, the back-to-backs. There was times where I think they've got 6 more games than the Ottawa Senators or 4 more or something. Like, they had so many teams had games in hand on them that I think they were running them ragged. But, now you're seeing a team that's starting to feel it. They're starting to do better on 5-on-5 situations. The power play is still lethal. Defensively, we're seeing improvements. We're seeing guys gain confidence. Nothing better than watching young guys gain confidence while they're out there. And, they're getting physical. They're understanding their roles. They all seem to have even a little bit of a little bit of a mindset to where they get in that rush that they know what to do with the puck. So it's been a wonderful, pleasant surprise to look and say, okay, Syracuse develops these guys. They're really doing a good job at developing these guys, and maybe this organization was deeper than we thought it was, because for a while it was like, oh, Syracuse might not, those guys, but no, they've got some guys down there that and this is something that, Julian Brisebois did say over the past, that he felt good about their defense, down there. They felt good about their young defensemen, the guys that they have. And, you kind of look at it like, okay, but now you're seeing it, and it's true to form. So they really feel like a team that if they can continue at this pace, first of all, they're going to be in the top 3, which you love. Right. Second of all, ain't nobody going to be lining up to play them.
Yeah.
There's not going to be it's going to be kind of like that, kind of like those AFC teams feel right now about, hey, we got Patrick Mahomes in our house.
On the road,
don't give a damn. Yeah. Hey, Patrick Mahomes don't give a damn where he plays you.
Yeah. Bunch of stupid people thinking he couldn't go on the road and win, like me.
Patrick Mahomes don't give a damn where he plays you. I tell you that really much. Doesn't. And I think this team has the same mentality. I think as they continue to improve on the road, they're not going to care. They're going to accept these challenges. This is a team that they are still a strong veteran bunch led that have a lot of composure. And when things look like, when this season looked like it was really shaky, they didn't panic. They didn't panic. They've stuck to what they do, and it's starting to come through.
Love it. All right, Corey, great stuff as always, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Great thoughts on Martin Fennelly. Thank you so much for that thoughtful tribute to him as well. To everybody how they can get your content.
As always, I'm on Twitter X at Corey Long, on Instagram at Real Corey Long. Yes, I think Real Corey Long. I think
where I saw all your Royal Rumble content.
A lot of my Royal Rumble content, it was ridiculous fun. That's all I'm going to say.
You had better seats than my man Nick, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I was in the back of the C floor seats, so we had a really good view, and I was just excited to see the Trop that full. I mean, I'd never seen the high levels of the 300 section that full before in my life, so it was insane, man. It's just, I always, it's one of those things where I'm not a huge wrestling guy like I was when I was a kid, but this was an opportunity. It's like, this is going to be fun, and it was just, you couldn't have wiped the smile off my face. It was so much. I had such a good time.
Good stuff. All right, Corey, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. We'll catch up with you down the road. Thanks, man.
All right, you guys take care.
All right, we'll take one more break. We'll come back on the other side. We got more to talk about with the AFC NFC championship games. A couple other notes to get to as well. So quick break. We'll be back. We're brought to you by Synovus Bank, the big bank with a very local feel. Go to synovus.com, head on in there, tell them JP sent you. Ask for a local banker like my good friend John Acosta and many more that have been in banking for so long here locally and work for Synovus Bank. A big bank that can handle anything you need, but also small enough to make you feel important, whether business or personal. synovusbank.com. Back in 3. Stay with us.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808. JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement cost, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here as we wrap it up here on a Monday morning post-AFC NFC Championship games. We're brought to you by the great folks at American Mortgage Services and the Geddes Gordon Group. If you've been on the sidelines thinking about getting back into real estate, folks, waiting for the rates to come down, well, they're inching down. But if you're going to wait till they get to 4 or 3% again, everybody's getting back in. Prices are going to skyrocket. The smart people are getting back in now. So if you've been house hunting and you put it on hold, now is the time to get back in. Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services will get you a low rate, shop it around, keep the fees super low, and Jane Geddes will find you the property that you're looking for. So put those dynamic duo together, the Geddes Gordon Group and American Mortgage Services. Go to GeddesGordonGroup.com. And you can reach Scott at amstampa.com. Scott at amstampa.com.
Hey, real quick before we finish up with the games, I just have to say this real quick because
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you saw this come across your Twitter timeline, but I just did in break. Okay, so obviously, like 48,000 people, top record at this Royal Rumble event.
Right.
Have you seen the people who are like, isn't it funny how people can find their way to the Tropicana
Yes.
Field in Gasparilla traffic, no problem, no questions asked at all, but you can't go to the Rays games? Isn't that funny? And these are people that are Rays fans who are like apologists for the Trop and where it's located.
Yeah.
I'm begging you to use your freaking head before you tweet. That is so, like, the comparison is not even in the same ballpark.
It's just dumb.
At all. Ridiculous.
It's just dumb. Like so many things when it comes to the stadium and arguments and, that I hear. First of all, folks, it's a one-off. You got people coming from all over the Southeast for a one-off
all over the
event.
world. All over the world, people come to this.
For a one-off event. Duh. Like I've always said, you could put a football stadium in downtown St. Pete. That would be better because it's more of a one-off. People are coming on the weekends. Not the same traffic patterns. Baseball.
I'm just like, if you're tweeting that and you're like not trolling and you're for real, like, please, like, come on.
Just dumb. Just dumb. Not to mention, I don't think everybody hates Vince McMahon like they hate Stu Stewart.
And JP, I probably wouldn't go there.
Yeah, maybe.
You
Maybe
might
there's
need to
more.
catch up on last week's news. And
yeah, what happened? I saw something last week that was weird.
Vince is completely out now.
He's completely out.
Sex trafficking allegations and sexual. Yeah. It's honestly the worst lawsuit I think I've ever read before. Like, it's disgusting. It really is. So
not shocking either.
It's not shocking whatsoever. But yeah, he's been completely removed from everything.
Well,
he resigned rather.
Well, and I'm not comparing what Stu has done to what is alleged here. Not doing that. But the point being, if you have an unpopular owner, deal with it. Major League Baseball, deal with it. Get them the hell out and install somebody or get somebody to buy in, which I think is happening soon, hopefully. And move on and get somebody that the public will embrace. And that helps a lot because people don't want to support financially, especially in these times, people that they don't want to support. So anyway, yeah, dumb tweet. All right. So we barely talked about Lamar and Brock Purdy. And I'd rather start with the positives and Brock Purdy because of the way he played and the comeback position that he was put in and answered the bell now 2 weeks in a row. And I can't stress enough how much I was impressed with his confidence in the pocket, his ability to read defenses, his ability to throw with anticipation, and his ability to get out of trouble with his feet. It's been fantastic. And I think it's a winning edge. And, I love Baker Mayfield, and he does, like, Baker's escapability is highly underrated. When he's healthy, he moves, I would say Brock Purdy-ish, right? I think he's got that ability. And it's one thing you've learned in the playoffs. And, obviously Lamar's the best at it. It wasn't great yesterday because he didn't have a complemented running game to work with. which, that it all works hand in hand. I don't know what the hell Todd Monken was thinking with, 6 running back runs, especially with the running backs he has. That said, I thought Purdy was fantastic. And I think Mayfield, when healthy, has the ability to do the same thing. It was tremendous.
Yeah, the thing about Purdy and Baker's a pretty good name to throw out there. I see comparisons in them. Now, I think Brock is a better he's much more accurate than Baker. I'm not going to confuse the two there.
I wouldn't say much more, but yes.
Well, he led the league in completion percentage. He's a dart thrower. Doesn't get enough credit for it either.
Yeah.
But the other things that I guess it's so funny we associate with the undersized quarterbacks is we always use the word moxie.
Yeah.
And toughness and gamer. We say that a lot about Baker. I can say the same thing about Brock Purdy. Like it may not look the prettiest. Like it's not. Like even the way he throws it's not. It's a little unorthodox. And even Baker doesn't have the greatest fundamentals when he throws a football either. But they just seem to get it done. And maybe Baker has a little bit more intensity than Brock does. He seems so laid back and chill.
Yeah, he does.
But all those things that I just said, gamer, moxie, all those cliches, I think they apply to both guys, and I think that's why I love Brock Purdy so much. And I think he's the story of this Super Bowl. And listen, if you're turned off by the Chiefs being back in the Super Bowl again,
then a lot of people
goodness, it's time for all of you to turn back over to the Brock Purdy side then.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that on Twitter. It's like, I'm not even watching the Bowl.
Yes, you are.
I'm over the Chiefs. I'm done with the Taylor Swift story. I'm like, please stop with Mr. Pfizer and Taylor Swift and everybody else. It's like, did Taylor make it back to the Super Bowl? She's going to be in Japan the night of. I'm like, yes, I'd like to get back to talking about some football. That would be nice, but it's part of the show, man. It's the greatest show on earth, the Super Bowl, and it's in Las Vegas. If you don't think Taylor's not going to be there, you're out of your mind. She'll be there.
You know what's incredible about Kansas City's win and the way they did it? I mean, we thought this is the worst team of the Mahomes era. And isn't it funny? Not funny, but it's crazy. They changed their entire identity. This is not the Chiefs teams that were going to the Super Bowl in 2019, 2020.
40 points a game. No,
like this defense. We talked all about the Ravens defense. Steve Spagnuolo. I mean,
wow.
The key to their success is nobody wants to interview Steve Spagnuolo for a head coaching job. And they can keep this guy forever as long as they want it. And, I mean, the drafting development they've done on that side of the ball. Because, the offense went 40 minutes without scoring a point. Mahomes and Kelsey were great in the first quarter. Chiefs did nothing offensively after that, really. But the Chiefs' defense, I mean, my goodness. I mean, they've changed their complete identity with Mahomes, Reed, and Kelsey still there. And then we're not even talking about their offense.
Yeah, it's true. And that defense won him the game. I mean, you want to be critical of Todd Monken and you want to be critical of Lamar. And I thought there were some opportunities to make plays and they had a lot of stupid penalties, very undisciplined football team. But yes, give credit to the Chiefs. I thought they were very physical defensively. Chris Jones was fantastic. That play he makes on the screen that he knocks down, a couple of those plays looked like they were going for big yardage. And and I thought they're, the strip sack, the very sneak, just a fantastic corner, making big plays. That knocking the ball out at the goal line was a tremendous play, but a bad play on Zay Flowers' part. So yeah, I mean, I give them great credit. Now, will they be able to stop the physicality of that 49ers run game? Which I thought the Lions did pretty well. I thought the 49ers were going to run all over them, but they did not. I thought they kept them in check for the most part. McCaffrey, I think, was averaging about 3 yards a carry through the first 3 quarters, and that's not easy to do. So I thought, but again, you see the 49ers wearing them down too. As the game went on, it kind of felt like that energy was going out of that Lions defense. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah, and even their front four, the push that they were getting early in the game just completely just went away in the second half. They just didn't have it anymore.
Yeah. So I think as I look ahead to the Super Bowl, I'm a little tired of all the other ancillary stuff. Yes, I am. But I can wrap my arms around the 49ers.
Well, the thing is he's got to strap it for the next 2 weeks because can we just play this game this Sunday? I mean, this is the one thing I hate.
With you. Taylor doesn't bother me. Kelsey bothers me. Kelsey bothers me. I'm so over that dude.
I mean, it just kind of it is what it is.
So over that.
But I'm not going to
Mahomes-
be a hater of the Chiefs because I mean
No.
what they're doing and everybody thought you'd never see a Patriots like run ever again.
Right,
And
true.
we honestly just casually just went into another one with no break in between. Like
Yeah.
that's what's going on here. Like
Yeah.
this team is just unbelievable. You can't beat them in the postseason.
No, you can't. And Patrick Mahomes has not thrown a pick in 6 games.
Right.
And they've won an unusual amount of games over the past 6 years.
Yeah,
the
and everybody
playoffs.
said they
They're
couldn't
setting
go on the
records.
road in 2 hostile environments, and did it look like it affected them one bit? No.
Nope, not Mahomes, not at all. The Bills look fantastic. I want to get to a couple comments. Our good friend Mark Steckman, there's zero accountability in journalism today in sports or news except for a select few. I would agree with that 100%. And especially when it comes to local. And he adds, corporations have ruined the media. It's become clickbait, cut and paste in every market. Unfortunately, yes, that's true. Thomas Casper, remembering, those who talk truth to power, and Chris Dumig and Chris Thomas and Steve Dumig. Yep. I know we sound like old heads here, but it's true. I'm going to have to say that, when Roy held up that newspaper today, Nick, it was like seeing an old friend I hadn't seen in a long time. It gave me a weird sensation I'm not very proud of. I'm just like, wow. Remember those days where you could sit down and you're at the table with your coffee, or by the way, you can't say Indian style anymore. It's crisscross applesauce.
Well, I actually said Indian style just because you two were sitting there.
Thank you.
Call it crisscross applesauce, but I thought you would be like, what is that or something?
I appreciated you saying that. Absolutely.
No, like
Throwback.
even like newspapers, like it's funny how information used to get around back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm sounding old, but I'm going back to literally 2013. Like I remember like seeing in like the bottom corner, it told me that there was like an event coming on at Emily.
Yeah.
And like I read that in the newspaper of all places. I didn't see it on Twitter. Like I didn't go to the website. I saw it in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like things were so simple. So simple.
Not a bad thing. All right. Our thanks to Roy Cummings. If you missed that interview, talking about the legacy of Martin Fennelly, great stuff. You can catch it on our podcast, Apple and Spotify, and every place you get podcasts. Just please like and subscribe. Also, our YouTube page. You can always go back and watch it on our YouTube channel, and fanstreamsports.com. You can catch us there as well. Also on Twitter and Facebook at JP Peterson. Thank you guys for joining us today. Appreciate all your support. We'll be back tomorrow with more fun and frivolity. Great job, Nick Geddes. We'll see you tomorrow.